All right, ignore my garage. I got a hot mess going on here. I need a vacuum. Yeah, you heard me. Vacuum my garage. I wanted to talk real quick and explain the difference between a plastic printer, which is what I'm going to call it for this video, which is basically an FDM filament printers. This is your typical traditional XYZ axis printing. And I want to compare that to a resin printer so that you get an overview of the difference between the two. So, FDM printer, plastic, you're going to buy a printer and these spools of plastic line that go into an extruder, heats it up, prints it line by line by line by line until you get something like this. It does a great job. It can be glossy, it can be matte finish. It's very light. This is Godzilla, obviously. But it does print some really good detail. You can get in there. You can do some stuff. It'll do a really good job. I usually use this printer, 3D printers. I got two of them, of the Creality variety. I usually use them for like demo stuff or things that I know I'm gonna trash or isn't gonna be used the whole. I just got a bucket, a little trash can that's made on a regular printer, and it's just the whole little pieces of trash, and I can have that right here and use it. I love this thing. Is great for general 3D printing stuff. I've done a lot of stuff from little trash cans like that to detailed stuff with Godzilla. We've done full-sized helmets for my daughter's cosplay for Hollow Knight. We have the whole helmet that I printed out and glued together. We have her sword. We got all kinds of stuff. There's a ton of printing you can do with this. Very easy. Can be done inside, should be done inside. You want to make sure that this filament is as dry as you can get it. So when you first get this, there's techniques to dry it out. You can buy a dryer, which I don't have out here, that'll heat it up to a certain degree for 6 hours or whatever. Some people just throw this in the oven at the lowest temperature for 6 hours. You want this stuff to be dry. If it's wet or has humidity in it, it's going to string a lot when it's going back and forth. You're going to hear lots of crackling and popping. You want that to be as dry as possible to have good quality prints. Now, these can take some tweaking. You got to make sure all your screws all around here are tight. You got to make sure your belt in here, if you have one, is nice and tight. Might have to tighten that up a little bit. Your build plate, you might have to buy a couple of these. The one that came with it sucked so bad, I went and bought some new ones that are really great. They're just magnetic, but you're going to have... The bed needs to be level so that it prints evenly on that first layer. There can be some problems, but they're pretty easy to solve. As you can see here, I've done some custom work on it. And had a lot of fun. But once you get them dialed in, they're really good, really stable. There's a lot of fun that you can do with these 3D printers. This 3D printer probably cost me $200. Creality Ender 3 V3 SE. I bought this off eBay. This is a Creality Ender 3 Neo, I think it is. Ender 2 Neo, I can't remember. V2 Neo, I don't remember. It's a Neo. It was like $150 after shipping. It's really slow, but it does a great job. This is slow, but it does a great job. So you're gonna, depending on if you can find the filament, you're gonna get it for like $30 maybe a piece, 16 if you can find some deals. And then I got these cereal box containers off Amazon. Get a bunch of them. Just helps keep stuff dry. Once it's dry, that's a whole community. I've designed my own internals. This is of my own design with it's just a mess. That I spent like a month doing that. So anyway, that's 3D printing with the FDM filament I forget what it stands for. Plastic. You can also do rubber. You can do some other different things. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to talk about resin. Resin is a liquid. I just buy Sunlu. It's like $35 for this 3,000 grams. It's about a gallon of filament or a solution resin, and it's liquid. You pour that liquid into this vat, and then the plate comes down, and it prints going up, so it's backwards from the other filament because you can't have the liquid on top, gravity, right? But so you're going to have lots of liquids. You have to wear gloves with this stuff. I do not recommend. This thing came boxed up, sealed in plastic, which was all sealed in bubble wrap, which is in a box plus a seal on the top. This stuff is nasty. You don't want to touch this, so you're going to need gloves. I got some gloves. You don't want to get this filament anywhere, or this solution, this resin anywhere. You want to keep it in the vat. I also have some paper towels on a silicone mat that I bought off Amazon, just to help kind of keep things nice and tidy. So once you get your print done, you have to take it here and get rid of all of the supports or whatever case. You're going to have to wash that part in a solution. You can use mineral spirits. The go-to for me is isopropyl alcohol. You get the 91%. Come on, focus. At Walmart, you can get it. They always have it in stock. It's super cheap at Walmart. It's just isopropyl alcohol. I've got 4 quarts in here, so this is a gallon. Put your part in there, and you got to wash it thoroughly. I have this washing station. You push this plate out, put this container on here, and there's a magnetic piece underneath that spins a little fan inside here to circulate and wash that. So you need to wash it with the isopropyl alcohol. You need to remove it, dry it out, clean it off. Then you need to put it into a UV light curing station of some kind. I bought this. This does both. This does the spinning and the curing. I don't know if you can see right here. I am not 100% happy with this. It works, but this front panel keeps unsticking since day one. So anyway, you put your part in here, and then you turn it on with the UV lights, and this will rotate the part so that resin will cure and become solid. And I have something that I painted here. Let's see if this will focus. Why aren't you giving me the detail? Come on, phone. Give me the deets. Give me the detail. You jerk. What the heck? I wonder if I did something. So anyway, it also prints, you can print solid things. The bigger the object that you print that is solid, the heavier it's going to be and the more likely you're going to have problems. This is small and really light once it all got finished. So it wasn't a big problem. So there's a lot of post work to do, post print cleanup. Once it's printed, you have to clean it and then clean it with the solution and then dry it off and clean it again, maybe with just a paper towel. Then you have to cure it. Depending on the size of the thing you're going to print it could be an hour to print or to cure. So you got an 18-hour print, and then you got to wash it for 30 minutes or whatever, and then you got to cure it for another 30 minutes or an hour. It's messy. You can't just throw this stuff down the drain because it's toxic. And so I've got these containers sitting over here that I need to dispose of. They need to go to a hazardous waste site, hence the gloves. So lots of stuff here. It prints friggin' amazing. If you were so why would you want to do these two? So this is the 3D printer with the filament is going to be your general. I just want to print stuff, a bowl, whatever you can find on 1,000 websites out there. This is going to be your go-to printer. If you are into Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons minifigurines, this is what you want. It's a process. You can't have this inside because of the toxic fumes. You need to vent. As you can see, I've got it all set up in my garage. I'll come out here a couple of times a day, open the garage, turn on the fan, blow it all out, and keep it good. This doesn't mind the heat. In fact, you want to have this fairly warm. It can be humid, but it's got the container, it's got the lid, it's got all the things. So those are the two differences. If you're going to do highly detailed, you could print something off like a minifig of Dungeons and Dragons Eye of a Beholder. You could print that off and not tell that you printed it yourself or you bought it at the store. In fact, it might look better here. You might have a better quality print of a Beholder here than you would buying it straight from the store. Just a lot of work on the resin printer, just an extra bunch of steps, but you're going to have higher quality. So in a nutshell, that's the real, and this is still going to take time. If I were to print this Skyrim key, that little foot, if I were to print that, say it's going to take, an hour. If I want to print 2 of these, it's going to take 2 hours because it has to print all of that and print all of this. So multiple items increase time to do it. Here, you could print 1,000 things that fit on this build plate, and it's all going to print within the same time if you were to do one, because it prints the whole layer of the build plate at the same time instead of individual lines. So just a real quick overview of the difference between a regular FDM printer and a resin printer.